I taught my daughter to paint sunsets every evening for 3 years before learning she was completely colorblind. The art teacher's email arrived on a Wednesday afternoon with a subject line that made my stomach drop. Concerns about iris, please call ASAP. My daughter was 7 years old and had been painting with me every single evening since she was 4, creating sunset after sunset with a skill that amazed everyone who saw her work. I called Mrs. Kellerman immediately from my office, already defensive before she even answered. Mr. Cross, thank you for calling back so quickly, she said, her voice carefully neutral. I wanted to discuss something I noticed during today's art class. Iris completed a color wheel assignment, and I'm concerned she might be having some vision issues. She paused, and I heard papers rustling. She labeled every single color incorrectly, not just mixing up similar shades, but completely wrong identifications. She called red gray, orange brown, yellow light gray, green medium gray. Every color on the wheel was mislabeled as some shade of gray. My first reaction was to defend Iris, to say the teacher must have misunderstood, but something about the systematic nature of the errors stopped me. I asked Mrs. Kellerman to email me photos of the assignment, and when they arrived 5 minutes later, I stared at my computer screen feeling like the floor was dissolving beneath my chair. The color wheel was technically perfect, each section painted with smooth gradients and precise boundaries, but every label was wrong in exactly the way the teacher had described. I immediately thought about our painting sessions, the 3 years of evening rituals where we'd painted hundreds of sunsets together, and suddenly I was seeing them differently. How many times had I said mix orange and pink for those clouds, and watched Iris confidently select paints while I praised her color choices? I left work early and drove home in a daze, calling Iris's pediatrician from the car. Dr. Patel squeezed us in for an appointment the next morning and referred us to a pediatric ophthalmologist named Dr. Vivian Leeds, who specialized in color vision deficiencies. That evening I watched Iris during our painting session with new attention, really looking at what she was doing. We were painting the sunset visible through our dining room window, and I described it out loud the way I always did. Look at those beautiful orange and pink clouds, I said, pointing at the sky. Try mixing some cadmium orange with a touch of titanium white and maybe a hint of quinacridone magenta. Iris nodded seriously and reached for paints, confidently squeezing colors onto her palette. But when I looked closely at what she'd selected, my chest tightened. The orange she'd chosen was actually a brown. The pink was a gray. She was mixing them together with complete confidence, creating a muddy brownish gray mixture. I watched her paint for 20 minutes, describing colors she couldn't see and selecting paints based on some system I didn't understand. And the painting that emerged was compositionally beautiful, but chromatically wrong in ways I'd somehow never noticed before. The sky was brown where it should have been orange, gray where it should have been pink, muddy green where it should have been purple. How had I looked at hundreds of sunset paintings and never noticed they were the wrong colors? After she went to bed, I pulled out every painting she'd ever created and examined them under different lights throughout the house. In the kitchen under fluorescent bulbs, they looked wrong. Browns and grays instead of oranges and pinks, muddy greens instead of purples. 3 years of evidence that something was wrong, and I'd been too blind myself to see it. The appointment with Dr. Leeds was scheduled for Friday morning, and I spent Thursday night researching color blindness. I learned that most color blindness was partial, people unable to distinguish between certain colors but still seeing others normally. But there was another condition called achromatopsia, complete color blindness, where people saw the world entirely in grayscale. It was rare, affecting only 1 in 30,000 people, but it matched what I was seeing in Iris's work. People with achromatopsia learned to associate brightness levels with color names, creating elaborate translation systems that let them function in a color-centric world despite seeing no hue at all. Dr. Leeds' office was designed for children, with bright murals on the walls. She was patient and kind with Iris, explaining each test in simple terms. The Ishihara plates came first, circles filled with colored dots that formed numbers. Iris couldn't identify a single number correctly, seeing only random dots where clear patterns existed. Dr. Leeds' expression grew more serious as the testing continued. She showed Iris a box of colored chips and asked her to arrange them in order from light to dark. Iris organized them in a way that would make perfect sense if they were all shades of gray, but made no sense based on their actual hues. She put a dark blue next to a dark red next to a dark green, grouping them by brightness while completely ignoring the color differences. The final test was an electroretinogram that measured electrical activity in Iris's retina when exposed to different wavelengths of light. They put electrode stickers around Iris's eyes and had her look at flashing lights while a computer recorded her retinal responses. I held her hand during the test, and I could feel her small fingers squeezing mine tighter with each flash. After about 30 minutes, Dr. Leeds removed the electrodes and asked us to wait in her office while she analyzed the results. When Dr. Leeds finally came in, she had printouts of test results that meant nothing to me, but clearly meant everything to her. She sat down across from us and took a breath before speaking, and I knew from her expression that my worst fear was about to be confirmed. Full story is linked below or on my channel.